Hi, I'm Megan and welcome to my kitchen. In today's What's for Dinner video, I'll be sharing with you what meals we had this past week. Our dinners were easy to make, budget friendly, and delicious. So if you're looking for some weeknight meal ideas for your family, just keep watching. Now, if you've watched my videos for a while, you do know normally we only eat out like maybe once a week. This week was just crazy busy and we happened to eat out twice, but I'll show you what we ate out and then what I made for us at home. For dinner this first night, I made Copycat Carrabba's seafood cannelloni. I have shared this before on my channel. I'll link that video down below and I kind of show you step by step how I make this. But I'll kind of just quickly walk through it again with you. And I'll also have the recipe in the description box below. But this is a dish that Carrabba's used to have on their menu and I loved it. It was my favorite thing to get. But they took it off the menu years ago. And I found this Copycat recipe online and I've been making it for the past several years, and it tastes really close to what I remember Carrabba's tasting like. So like I said, let me quickly walk you through how I put this together. All right, so on the left is the filling. It's ricotta cheese, parsley, lemon zest, an egg, salt and pepper, a little bit of milk, Parmesan cheese. And then for the seafood, the recipe calls for canned shrimp and canned crab. You can, of course, use fresh seafood. You don't have to use the canned, but the canned is easy. And plus, to be honest, it's quite a bit cheaper to use canned. Now, I remember Carrabba's having bay scallops in it. Maybe they didn't, and I'm crazy, but I like to add bay scallops. I just buy a frozen bag from the grocery store, let them thaw. Once you get the filling mixed up completely, we are ready to put it in our pasta. Now, the recipe that I use calls for egg roll wrappers as the cannelloni pasta. I say that in quotes. The last time I shared this, y'all, some people got so bent out of shape about the egg roll wrappers and were like, why didn't you just use cannelloni pasta? Well, number one, I can't find cannelloni pasta anywhere near me. Number two, calm down. We're just making pasta. It's okay. Number three, I didn't write the recipe, just following the recipe. But number four, I got several comments about where egg roll wrappers aren't real Italian food. Like Carrabba's is real Italian food anyway. It's an Americanized version of Italian food. So anyway, it just, if you're like me and you can't find cannelloni wrappers, it's fine. Just use egg roll wrappers. If you can find cannelloni wrappers or if you want to use manicotti, hey, you're in your kitchen, you use what you want, what you've got. So once we get the filling mixed up, or lay it down on the egg roll wrapper. You want to roll the egg roll wrapper around the pasta, or you can stuff your cannelloni pasta or manicotti. And then I like to use a little bit of water to seal the wrapper and then place it sealed side down into a greased baking dish. In this skillet, I've got my roasted red pepper Alfredo sauce. If you've never made homemade Alfredo sauce before, I highly encourage you to give it a try. There's nothing wrong with the jarred, but homemade is so much better. And it's actually really easy. So all you do is take some butter, heavy cream, and it does need to be heavy cream. You can't get away with using like half and half or milk. And then some pureed roasted red peppers and minced garlic. You kind of bring it to a gentle simmer over about medium heat and then add in some grated or shredded Parmesan cheese. Let that, just kind of cook on like medium low for a couple minutes. And when it gets thick, it's done. Give it a taste, adjust the seasonings to your taste. And then I'm going to pour that over the cannelloni egg wrapper, whatever you want to call it. This is going to go into a preheated oven at 350 degrees and bake for about 25 or 30 minutes until it's bubbly and it just barely starts to get golden brown. I also did a Caesar salad on this side. I shared recently a homemade Caesar salad, homemade dressing and croutons and everything. So I'll link that video down below. But this is just romaine lettuce, that homemade dressing, the homemade croutons, some grape tomatoes, little Parmesan cheese. And that salad is so delicious. Here are the plates. So we've got the Caesar salad, the cannelloni pasta. And I do like to let the cannelloni pasta rest for maybe about 10 minutes or so when it comes out of the oven because it's piping hot. But this is such a yummy dinner. It's perfect, just for every night of the week. But it's also great for like a date night or for company because it's kind of fancy. It seems kind of fancy, but it's really easy to put together. This was delicious. For dinner the next night, I made Korean beef bowls. I've made this a few times before. I've shared it before on my channel. I'll link that video down below, and I'll have the recipe down below as well. Now, you guys, this is such a quick and easy dinner. It takes like 15 minutes to put together, and I'm not even kidding. In this skillet here, I've got some lean ground beef, minced garlic, a little bit of salt and pepper. I'm going to cook that over about medium heat until the ground beef is cooked all the way through. Now, if you're using a more fatty ground beef, or if you're using like ground pork or something, you may want to drain off the fat, but this was lean, so I didn't have to do that. To that cooked ground beef, I'm going to add in the sauce. In this measuring cup is brown sugar, soy sauce, sesame oil, red pepper flakes, ground ginger, and vegetable oil. I'm going to stir that in and then simmer this for just like 2 or 3 minutes. And seriously, that's all it takes. And you've got dinner on the table. Gary absolutely loves Vietnamese style spring rolls. So I had this kit. I got this at Walmart, and I apologize. I'd already taken the items in the kit out before I realized I needed to show you all this. This was like $3 something at my Walmart, and it has the rice paper, the noodles, and the peanut sauce. You add whatever veggies or protein you want. So I'm just going to make these according to the package instructions, and I have shown me making this same kit before. I'll try to find that video and link it down below, but you just follow the instructions on the package. Here's Gary's plate. I wasn't hungry at dinner time, so I ate much later and forgot to take a picture, but basically the same thing. I cooked up some brown rice, laid that down. You could also use plain white rice. I think this would also be good over noodles. Added some of the ground beef, and then added some sesame seeds and chopped green onions. I had some kimchi mayo in my fridge that needed to be used up, so I drizzled that over. Served it with some kimchi, and then we've got the spring rolls. And I took the peanut sauce in the kit and set that to the side because I had leftover sauce from the Thai pineapple peanut chicken satay I made last week. I'll link that video down below. So that's what I served it with, and this was a delicious dinner. It was so quick and easy to put together, and I think if you've got kiddos, especially littles, I think this ground beef dish is a great way to introduce like some Asian or Korean flavors to your kiddos. It's not super spicy. I mean, you could of course make it spicy, but it's really not spicy, and it's got a little bit of sweetness to it, and it's just easy. Perfect for a busy weeknight meal. Dinner the next night was off of meal plan, but I've been wanting chicken and rice casserole. I will have the recipe in the description box below for you. I've got the oven preheating to 350 degrees. I'm going to mix everything up in this bowl. So I'm going to start out by adding my chicken. You could use leftover chicken. You could cook up your own chicken. I'm using rotisserie chicken that I gave a rough chop. Next, I'm going to add in some onion soup mix, and I am having the recipe, by the way. Next, the recipe calls for 1 can of cream of mushroom soup and 1 can of cream of chicken soup for the entire recipe, but because I'm having it, I like to use this one single can that has both cream of chicken and cream of mushroom in it. Now, if you don't want to use, canned soup, you can of course make your own homemade version. Once I've added that, I'm going to add in the milk, and then the recipe calls for sour cream, and that's what I had on hand this time. But something that you can do is add French onion dip to this, and it's delicious. So good. Once I've added that, I'm going to add in some instant rice. Now, if you don't have instant rice or you don't want to use it, just add in some pre-cooked rice, but make sure you kind of par cook the rice. I'm next going to add some salt and pepper, and really you could add like garlic powder, onion powder, whatever seasonings you like. I'm going to stir that up until it's really well combined, and then I like to just take a little taste of the mixture and see if I feel like it needs a little more seasoning. I'm going to add that to a greased baking dish, and then you want to cover this really tightly with aluminum foil, and that's really key to cover it tightly because all of this steam that's created is what's going to help your rice cook. So we're going to cook this covered for 45 minutes. To go along with this, I'm going to do some Parmesan roasted green beans. So on this sheet pan, I'm going to add some green beans. And normally I cook this at a little higher temperature for a shorter amount of time, but it's fine. I just popped it in the oven at the same temp as the chicken and rice. I'm going to drizzle the green beans with some olive oil, season it with some garlic powder, salt, and pepper. And again, you can use whatever seasonings you'd like. Once I've added that, I'm going to add some grated Parmesan cheese, and then that's it. I'm going to toss this really well and pop this into the oven. Like I said, I cooked it this night at the 350 degrees for maybe about 20 minutes. Just cook it until the green beans are tender and they start to get a little bit golden brown. And I do kind of loosely follow a recipe, which of course will be linked down below. The recipe calls for you to add breadcrumbs to this. I did it that way the first time I made these, and I just personally didn't care for the breadcrumbs, so I skip it, but you of course can add them if you'd like. For the other side, I'm making my easy glazed carrots. I've shared this many times before, and they are, like the name suggests, easy. To a saucepan, I'm going to add some canned carrots. I drain those, and then I'm going to add a little pat of butter. You can also use fresh carrots. I would just suggest you peel them and cut them into small pieces and boil them until they're tender. Drain off the liquid and then add in the other ingredients. Now for the sweetener, you can use whatever you like. I like to do a little drizzle of honey and just a little bit of brown sugar. I just like the combination of the two. I'm going to add a little pinch of salt and some pepper, and then cook that on like medium-low for maybe about 10 to 20 minutes. You know, everything's already cooked. You really just want to melt the sugar, and the butter will kind of turn into a syrup and like caramelize the carrots. The casserole's been baking for 45 minutes. I'm removing it from the oven and very carefully removing the foil. I'm going to take a look at the casserole. The liquid should all be absorbed, and then I'm going to take just a tiny little taste around the edge to make sure that the rice is tender. If the liquid is absorbed and the rice is tender, it's pretty much done at this point, but we're going to pop it back into the oven for about 10 minutes uncovered, just so the top gets a little golden brown. If your rice is still hard, you can add more liquid, cover it, pop it back into the oven for about 15 minutes. If it's too liquidy, you just pop it back in the oven uncovered and cook it just for a little bit longer. So here is the casserole once it's done. And then here are the green beans and the glazed carrots. And I do like to let the casserole sit just for about 10 minutes before I serve it up. And here are the plates. So we've got the green beans, the carrots, and then the casserole. And I garnished it with some parsley flakes. You totally don't have to do this, but good, comforting dinner. I've shared how I usually make my French dips before on my channel. I'll link that video down below. But on Instagram a couple months or so ago, I saw kind of like their version of a French dip. And it was pretty much the same way I make mine, just with a couple little twists. And I've been wanting to try it. So let me show you how I put this together. These were delicious. I'm going to start out though by trying a new recipe for a side dish. It's a no mayo potato salad. Of course, the recipe will be linked down below. The recipe called for baby red potatoes, but I am using baby gold. Use whatever your preference is. I'm going to boil these in some salted water until they're fork tender and then drain them. In this measuring cup, you can also do this in a bowl if you prefer. I'm going to add in some extra virgin olive oil, and then I am going to add in some lemon juice. Now, I just realized that the recipe also called for red wine vinegar. I just totally skipped over that part, but to be honest, I really liked this the way that it was, so I don't think I would add the vinegar, but that's just personal preference. I'm going to add in some Dijon mustard. Then I'm going to add in some salt and pepper and give that a really good whisk and then set that to the side. Now, of course, like I say with everything, taste this, adjust it to your taste. You can add a little more Dijon, a little more lemon juice, whatever you prefer. So in this bowl, I've got those potatoes. I drain them and then cut them into, the larger potatoes I cut into quarters, the small ones I just cut in half. I'm going to add in some fresh chopped parsley and chives, and then we're going to drizzle that vinaigrette over the potatoes and give it a really good stir. Now, the recipe strongly suggested letting this marinate for at least an hour, longer if you can, and I absolutely concur. To be completely honest with you, when I first put this together, I gave it a taste because like I always say, practice what I preach, give things a taste and adjust the seasonings. And when I first put this together and tasted it, I didn't like it. I felt like the Dijon mustard was way too overpowering. I thought it was really, really tart, but I was like, well, I've already put it together. I don't want to, throw it away. So whatever, it is what it is. We'll eat it. And so I let it marinate. I think it ended up marinating like 4 hours. And when I went to taste it right before dinner to see, if I needed to adjust anything, I was like, okay, the refrigerator worked some kind of voodoo magic because this is delicious. Both Gary and I loved it. So I completely agree. You definitely want to let this sit and marinate for all the flavors to come together. Now, just like when I make my French dips, this recipe called for you to use Campbell's beef consomme as the au jus. I'm just going to warm this up in a small saucepan, and we're going to take the roast beef and dip it just for a couple seconds in that warmed up au jus just to warm up the meat. I'm using the Boar's Head London broil, but of course you can use whatever kind of roast beef you want. We love cooked onions and mushrooms on our French dip sandwiches, and this recipe didn't call for it, but there's no French dip police, so I wanted to add onions and mushrooms, so that's what I'm going to do. But in this little saucepan, and I probably should have used a bigger skillet, but they were dirty, to be honest. I added a little bit of butter. I'm going to add some sliced onions, mushrooms, season it with a little Worcestershire salt and pepper, and then I just cooked this on like medium low for, I don't know, maybe like 15 minutes or so until they were really soft and tender. Okay, now to assemble our French dips. I normally just use like hoagie rolls. The recipe called for baguette, so I went with the baguette. I sliced them in half horizontally, and then I like to take out just a little bit of the top of the baguette. The baguettes a lot of times can read a little dry to me. Sorry, I don't mean to offend any of you French people. So I like to take that out when I'm doing sandwiches like this. And then the recipe also didn't call for this, but I have just a little bit of this garlic and herb butter in my fridge that I really need to use up, so I thought that would go well with this, and it did. It was so good. I'm going to butter the insides of the rolls. Now, the Boars Head recipe suggested to use this caramelized onion Monterey Jack cheese. I found this on markdown at Kroger a couple weeks ago. I'd had it in my freezer and I let it thaw, so I'm going to add the cheese to both sides of the bread rather. I'm going to take that warmed up roast beef, and again, remember we just dipped it in the au jus. I'm adding the sauteed onions and mushrooms, and then this is going to go into a preheated oven at 350 degrees. And I think the recipe said to bake this for like 10 minutes, but I felt like the bread was still really soft, so I cooked it for probably another maybe 6 or 7 minutes. But really all you're doing is just melting the cheese, warming everything through. And here are the plates. We've got the French dips, some of that warmed up au jus, and that potato salad, and everything was delicious. So good. The French dips had so much flavor. They were delicious, and that potato salad was really yummy. Dinner the next night was off of meal plan, and like I said at the beginning of my video, in case you're new to my channel, we don't typically eat out during the week for dinner. If we do, maybe once a week, maybe, but very, very rarely, unless we're like on vacation, do we eat out twice in a week. So this was a little bit of a rarity for us, but this day for both Gary and I was super, super busy. I mentioned in my grocery haul that there was a gentleman at church that passed away, and so I had signed up to make a few dishes for the family after the services. And so I was like crazy busy that morning, getting everything ready, getting it to the church, and then, just doing the regular cleaning and feeding the dogs and all that. And Gary had a couple business meetings that day, and he actually had to travel to the meeting. So it was just really crazy. And at the end, I didn't feel like cooking really. And Gary was like, hey, can we just order a Philly cheesesteak pizza? And I was like, sure, that's perfect. So we ordered from Papa John's. We got the Philly cheesesteak pizza. We do like to add mushrooms. And then I got the Hawaiian barbecue pizza, and we had plenty of leftovers for lunch for the next couple days. So not only did we get dinner, but lunch was taken care of. So quick and easy dinner. Dinner the next night, I tried a new recipe for Hawaiian chicken and coconut rice. I'm going to start out by marinating the chicken. So in this bowl, I'm going to add in some brown sugar, and you could of course use a sugar replacement if you'd like to do that. Next, I'm going to add in some pineapple juice. I'm going to grill up these pineapple slices later, so I'm just using the juice from that can, and then I'll reserve the pineapple slices. Next, I'm going to add some soy sauce. I like to use low sodium, just use your preference. I'm going to add just a little bit of ketchup, then a little bit of oil. Next, I'm going to add the honey at this stage. The recipe called for you to brush the honey on the chicken as it was finishing up on the grill, but to be honest, I just didn't feel like fooling around with that and cleaning the grill with the honey, so I just added it into the marinade. We're going to add some minced garlic. And then that's it. We're going to give this a really good whisk, and we will marinate the chicken. So here I have a couple chicken breasts that I just cut into like tender size shapes. You can use chicken tenders, of course. I'm going to add the marinade, release all the air from the bag, and give it like a really good zhuzh, and then marinate this. Now, of course, the longer you let it marinate, the better it will be. I ended up letting this marinate for 2 days because the Papa John's was an impromptu meal, and I had planned on making this the night before. But yeah, I just let it marinate for a couple hours until we are ready to cook it up for dinner. For the side dish, I tried another new recipe for Hawaiian roasted vegetables. Of course, the recipe will be linked down below. I kind of loosely followed this. So in this bowl here, I've got my veggies, and I just washed and chopped them all up. I've got some red onion, some mini bell peppers, some green beans, zucchini, and some carrots. These are baby carrots I just chopped. Now I'm going to start on the sauce for the vegetables. I'm going to add some pineapple juice, oil, minced garlic, brown sugar, and the recipe called for chopped ginger. I didn't have any though, so I'm using ground ginger. And then the recipe didn't call for soy sauce, but I just felt like it kind of needed a little bit of like that salty to go with the sweet. So I added a little splash of soy sauce. I'm going to whisk that until it's really well combined. Now while I do that, a quick note about this recipe. Once the vegetables were done, I gave them a taste, and I liked the flavor of them, but I felt like I needed to double the sauce. And I didn't even use the full amount of vegetables that the recipe called for. And I still felt like I needed to kind of double the sauce to give it a little bit more flavor. So I would just recommend that, or season the vegetables with salt and pepper before you add this like marinator sauce onto them. But they were still pretty good. So once I've got that sauce mixed up, I'm going to add a layer of foil to a sheet pan. I sprayed it with some cooking spray, lay out my vegetables. I'm going to drizzle that sauce on top of it, give it a good mix, and then that's going to go into a preheated oven at 400 degrees and bake for about 20 minutes. After 20 minutes, we're going to remove it, stir it, and bake it for another 5 to 10 minutes until the vegetables are tender and golden brown. Now at this point, like I said, I gave it a taste and I liked the flavor. I just felt like it wasn't like oomph enough, so I just added a little bit of the Sweet Baby Ray's teriyaki sauce and gave it a toss with the vegetables. Another quick note, the recipe did call for pineapple chunks to be cooked along with the vegetables, but I was grilling the pineapple to go with the chicken, so I just skipped it in the vegetables. While the veggies were cooking, I got started on my rice. The recipe calls for jasmine or basmati. I have some jasmine. I'm going to put it into a fine mesh strainer and rinse it under cold water until the water runs clear. You'll need some coconut milk, and then not pictured is some water and a little salt. I'm just going to add everything to my rice cooker, flip the cooker on, and then when it's done, I like to let it sit for about 10 minutes before I take the lid off and then fluff it with a fork. Now, I grilled the chicken just on my outdoor grill. I also grilled the pineapple, just cook it until the chicken is at least 165 degrees internal temperature. And then I like to cover it with foil anytime I grill chicken and allow it to sit for about 10 minutes to allow the juices to redistribute. So here are the plates. I laid down some of the coconut rice, added some of the chicken, the grilled pineapple on top, garnished it with a little fresh parsley, and then we've got the vegetables. And this was good. Gary really enjoyed this dinner. He kept complimenting it. I thought it was good, but like I said, I thought the vegetables needed a little bit more flavor, and then I felt like the chicken also needed to be seasoned with a little bit of salt and pepper before it went on the grill, you know, after it came out of the marinade. But this was a quick and easy dinner, and it was yummy. It was pretty good. All right, for the last meal of this week's video, we did a little date and we went to Red Lobster. I've been wanting Red Lobster for a while, but it can be a little pricey. And I saw the other day, I was scrolling through Instagram and somebody was talking about, like, I don't know if it's permanent or just part-time or what, but like this unlimited shrimp special for like 20 bucks. And I was like, yes, please. So we started out, of course, with their amazing Cheddar Bay biscuits, and they were so fresh and tender. Oh, so good. For an appetizer, we got their, was it seafood stuffed mushrooms? And these were tasty. They were so yummy. With each of our entrees, we both got 2 sides, and both of us chose a garden salad as one of our sides. Gary got Thousand Island, I got ranch, and then both of us did the unlimited shrimp for $20. Now, I don't know if every Red Lobster works this way, so check your local Red Lobster, but ours for right now, they had a few different like meal deals depending on how many shrimp entrees you wanted. They have a list of choices of shrimp, and you can choose 2, 3, or unlimited. And like I said, the unlimited was $20. And so you get 3 choices of shrimp entrees with 2 sides. And then you can, ask for the same 3 shrimp or get 3 different, or, whatever you want. And again, it's the 20 bucks. So I chose their popcorn coconut shrimp, their shrimp scampi, and then their crab rangoon shrimp. Gary chose their new crispy dragon shrimp, the coconut popcorn shrimp, and then the crab rangoon shrimp. And everything was delicious. I tried his dragon shrimp. It was so good. And we were both so full, neither one of us had room for a round two. And in fact, neither of us could even touch our other side dish, which was loaded mashed potatoes. We had to take those home. But it was a delicious dinner. It's not a bad deal for 20 bucks. So check your local Red Lobster. And by the way, not sponsored at all. They have no clue I exist. All right, that is it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked this video. Hope you got some dinner ideas from it. If you did, hit the thumbs up button below and subscribe to my channel if you're not already. And I hope you have a great rest of the day. Bye-bye.